Was it in the context of that change, Lord Sedwill, that you made your reference to chickenpox parties, which, out of fairness, I must ask you about?
Of course.
Because you've heard the evidence about it. It's important you have the opportunity of saying whatever you want to say about the context in which that remark was made.
Well, that remark was made before the meetings of the 13th to the 16th of March and the change of approach. And I should say, at no point did I believe that coronavirus was only of the same seriousness of chickenpox. I knew it was a much more serious disease. That was not the point I was trying to make. And as soon as I realised, I think from Ben Warner's reaction, that that's what he thought I was suggesting, I dropped it because I realised the analogy was causing confusion.
Were you seeking to make a different point, which is that were people to be allowed to become infected with chickenpox, that they would therefore be allowing themselves to become vulnerable to a virus, and that particular virus, and in the context of coronavirus, if the policy being pursued is one of herd immunity, whereby putting aside those people who are necessarily shielded or segmented, the remainder of the population would necessarily be infected, that was simply a recognition of the reality of that strategy.
That's a fair summary, Mr. Keith. I was essentially trying to address this question we've touched on several times, which was the judgment that it was inevitable that the virus would spread through the population. And what I was trying to examine was there a way of managing that, given its highly differential impact, that ensured that it spread through those for whom the disease was likely to be unpleasant rather than dangerous, and that we could quarantine and shield those for whom it would be dangerous. If I may, though, there's a point I might just make to the families. These were private exchanges, and I certainly had not expected this to become public. And I understand how, and in particular, the interpretation that's been put on it, that it must have come across that someone in my role was both sort of heartless and thoughtless about this, and I genuinely am neither. But I do understand the distress that must have caused, and I apologise for that because it certainly wouldn't have been my intention, and of course I wasn't the one who made it public.